Salutations everyone, this is Razor, telling you guys today about the prognosticators, and oh, how wrong they are. They are so wrong. They have been since the dawn of predictions, and they will continue to be, especially those in economy and financial markets. They never know what they're talking about, and the economy and financial markets continue to make a fool out of them, day after day, year after year. That's just the way it works. It's like the weatherman. The weatherman's always wrong, because the number one attribute of weather is that it's unpredictable. You can make some broader statements that are easy to say, like, oh, it's going to be hotter in July than it is in December. But outside of that, there's not really a whole lot you can do when talking to day-to-day or broad generalizations. And the market is the same way. And they're never right. Take a look at the GameStop, for instance. For the past decade, we've seen stories about how GameStop is going under. GameStop's going to die. Oh, virtual sales. Oh, Steam. Oh, used games. Oh, DRM. Blah, 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 blah. The past decade, we've been saying that GameStop is going to die. Hasn't happened yet. Hasn't even come close. And it's not going to in the near future. Sorry, but you're wrong. Doomsayers love to be doomsayers because it catches headlines, and the prognosticators, the people who like to predict the future, are the most out-of-touch people who want to seem as cutting edge as possible. They want to make it seem like they're living in the future and telling you what it's like, even though they don't know what it's like in the present. Because if you're out of touch with the present, there's no way you're going to be able to tell what the future holds. Ever since, the first month or so of the past generation of consoles, every single day, there's been a story about how Microsoft's Xbox is on its last life, how Microsoft is losing this console war, and how it's basically already over after just a couple of months. Crazy on its own. And on the same day, on the same websites, I always see a story about how Sony's PlayStation, while it's winning, is still losing. And every other day, because Nintendo doesn't get a lot of press coverage. And when it does, it's always about how Nintendo is, they're going under, they lost the console war, what's going to happen to Nintendo? They're losing all this market share, and they're losing all this money, and the Wii U sales aren't doing that great. So, let me get this straight. According to the prognosticators, in a market that accounted for $13 billion last year alone, destroying the movie industry and any other form of entertainment out there, a $13 billion industry, we have no winners? We have no winners outside of your Angry Birds and your Flappy Bird app people? Really, in a $13 billion industry, nobody's making money. Everyone's losing. The three biggest hitters out there, the three biggest proprietary distributors and the companies with the biggest market shares, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, they're all losing? I find that hard to believe. So let's take a look at what they have to say. I'll take a look at something very, very, very recent. Yesterday, or I should say 2 days ago, there was an article on the Bloomberg View about how Microsoft Xbox is on its last life. And just yesterday, on the same website, there is an article about why PlayStation 4 is really losing. So let's take a look at these. The first one, of course, not written by a gamer, not written by someone in the gaming industry, or knows anything about games. It's written by Matthew C. Klein. Writes about the economy and financial markets. Big red flag right there. A, he's not writing what he's taught. He doesn't know what he's writing about. And B, what he does write about is the economy and financial markets. Can't have a good track record being that kind of a writer. So let's see what he has to say. He goes on saying about how Sony is crushing Microsoft, how they're outselling the Xbox One by more than 2-1, the PlayStation 4 is, and how both companies are selling their systems at a loss, but make up for it by selling games and DLC content over proprietary networks, so the difference in market share matters a lot. True. Everyone knows that PlayStation 4 is outselling Xbox One. The media won't let us forget that fact. They're writing about it every single day as if it means something. These prognosticators always like to take a look at a couple of days or a couple of weeks of data and say that this is all we need. They don't want to look at the big picture because there's always fluctuations and deviations that are going to prove them wrong. You take a look at the last generation, how the 360 was cheaper than the PlayStation 3 and had a year head start. Had a lot of the market share, how PlayStation's lead that they had over the Xbox with the PlayStation 2 completely diminished in a year. And what happened? Even though PlayStation had the Blu-ray player, it was the cheapest Blu-ray player on the market, and even when it wasn't, it was still, why not spend an extra 20, 50, 100 bucks to get a PlayStation 3 player that also plays Blu-rays? It was the more powerful system. It played Blu-rays. It was the best thing out there. It beat the HD DVD that, Microsoft was trying to push, and yet it was still losing. It was more expensive. It was more powerful. But it caught up. Take a look at today, where the 360 and the PlayStation 3 is. They're pretty much even. Outside of the differences that happened on the onset, they're even now. Pretty much. And then the Wii, once again, way ahead of both of them. People always love to forget this. And what they're looking at here is a distinct deviation from the last generation, in that Sony is out of the gate beating Microsoft handily, and both those systems came out at the same time. What's the reasons for this? Everyone always loves to point at the price difference, which is important to the average consumer. Not so much your hardcore gamer, which cares about games, like I mentioned before, but just about the pricing model, which helped the 360 in the previous generation. Xbox One is $100 more than the PlayStation 4. Microsoft bundled in their Kinect. That made it more expensive. PlayStation was going to follow suit. Sony was going to bundle in their camera as well because of how great motion games did with the Wii and the Kinect and the PlayStation Move that were, much greater failures than the Wii was. And we see what happened with, the Wii and the Wii U and how that, isn't following up to its predecessor. But motion sensing is still a thing that they feel like they need to do. But Sony was like, hey, let's cut ours out, make it cheaper, and beat them to the punch on price. Good move. Microsoft had a lot of foibles in their marketing and, backtracking of like, oh, we're going to do this. Okay, no, we're not. People are angry. Eventually, everyone got the system that they wanted. Didn't help because the damage was already done. Your average stupid consumer did what they did for whatever reasons. When you take a look at a larger and larger populations of people, they get dumber and dumber. I don't have to argue for this. So this guy goes on again, how it's saying that you can't access Netflix without having your $60 a year Xbox Live Gold, as if that was expensive, $60 for 12 months for Xbox Gold. How many people who have an Xbox don't have a Gold account? I'd say very few, especially those that buy a lot of stuff. They have Gold accounts. The people with Gold accounts make up a huge portion of the profits that these companies make. How many people with a PlayStation 4 right now don't have a PlayStation Plus? Because you need that to play online. You don't need it for apps and such that you do with the Xbox, but it's still a similar model. Sure, the games for gold and PlayStation Plus free games are completely lopsided, but this guy doesn't write about this, and he goes on about how Titanfall. He goes about Titanfall for the next couple of months, saying that Microsoft's putting all their eggs in the Titanfall basket, and that's not going to work. Of course it's not. Titanfall is not a console-selling killer app. It's not the Halo 3 that the 360 had. It's not. It's a new IP and a new developer. It's going to sell pretty well, but it's not a killer app. It's not a console-selling, driving machine that, this guy thinks that everyone expects it to be, or that maybe Microsoft expects and definitely hopes that it will be. So he goes that Sony's experience is better than Microsoft's, and Titanfall is likely not going to do very well, and the damage is too severe for Microsoft to, recover from, yada yada yada. Alright, you've said your shit. So let's go on to why Sony's PlayStation 4 win is really a loss, written by Leonid Bershinsky. Once again, not someone who's in the video game industry. He's a nonfiction writer. Alrighty, so let's see what kind of fiction he has to spew today. Sony's the emerging leader in video game consoles, blah, 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 blah. They're outselling Sony. It's a $12 billion industry, but that's down 30% from 4 years ago, according to the NPD. Blah, 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 blah. Titanfall, once again, I don't know why people keep talking about Titanfall, but, that's just the way that it goes. 36% of American gamers already use their mobiles and tablets to play, and he says that experts predict, that's the big red flag there when someone says experts. Experts predict that the industry will soon have these tablets and smartphones being the primary screens for gamers. What is this dude smoking? I'm sorry. Yes, apps make a lot of money. They're really cheap, they sell a lot, everyone has a smartphone, and nowadays, seems like everyone has a tablet. The average amount of Americans spend playing video games has doubled between 2002 and 2012, and he attributes this to smartphones and tablets. Good point. Very much, there's a lot of truth to that, but he says that 40% of gamers prefer multiplayer universes. That's a pretty big chunk that he's not talking about here. 40% of people that, like I've said before, make up most of the revenue that these companies swallow up. There's a lot of money to be had in Flappy Bird and blah, blah, blah. And the hardcore, serious gamers wouldn't be caught playing dead playing, an app-like game on a console. But for addicts, playing on the phone or, on the train or during a lunch break is really quick, adequate fix. And he says that the mobile explosion killed off the console industry, but perhaps there's just too many games out for the market to absorb new content at pre-2009 rates. Now, he has some data to back this up. And he cites the VG charts like everyone else does. And says that, even though the new consoles are out there, the 360 and the PlayStation 3 are still selling more. Obviously, because there's millions of them out there. This guy doesn't know his history about how video games work, how new consoles work, how, PlayStation 2, hell, there's still a PlayStation 2 being released this year. It's the last one, it's FIFA 14, and it's because of Brazil and their weird, trading embargoes and crap, because they just got the PlayStation 2, last week, or something crazy. But he says that, there are too many big games out there, too many franchises like Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty that have reigned for years, that people don't have any reason to buy the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. These people don't know what they're talking about. People need to stop believing these idiots who don't know anything about the gaming industry, who don't know anything about games, who think that, Flappy Bird is the biggest game in the world. We know, sure, Tetris sells better than anything else in the history, without even its spin-offs. But take a look at Minecraft, a PC game and a console game. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Yes, there's a mobile app, and that sells a lot, but that's not what real people play it on. That's not who people who spend their money aren't spending it on their phones playing Minecraft. They're doing it on Steam. They're doing it on the Xbox Live Marketplace. They're doing it on the PlayStation Marketplace. It's a $12 billion industry. How is everybody losing? It's a prognostication I see every single day. It's always the same arguments. They're a broken record and say the same things over and over again for the same reasons, and they forget about the truth. Microsoft's losing the console war because Sony, in a matter of weeks, has a lead over them. Okay, how is that an argument? Nintendo's losing because the Wii U isn't doing so well. The 3DS is still selling better than everything in the market. Sony's losing because everyone's losing. In a $13 billion market, everyone's losing? Alright. These guys need to shut up now. I haven't listened to them, and you shouldn't either. Nintendo isn't doing so well. I can't argue against that. Wii U is not doing what the Wii did, even though the 3DS is still the best-selling thing out there. Things aren't looking great for Nintendo right now, for a number of reasons, mostly of which they don't have a lot of good games out for the platform yet. But to say that the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are not doing well is idiocy at its finest. Xbox One is selling better than the 360 did. The PlayStation 4 is selling way better than the PlayStation 3 did. So, you can keep throwing all your ludicrous numbers at me, but I'll pay attention to the ones that actually matter. To predict the future, you have to know the present and remember the past. But these people can't do any of these. Hope you all enjoyed. And if you liked the video, let me know and subscribe.